Okay, we're now going to jump into a new episode, combining species. It's kind of like the general equation for creating a monster. You know, you put two different sources together, observing and analyzing shape, breaking them down into very bold, objective forms, seeing what really makes up that species or source from a very objective perspective. So as much as we're using our ape as our primary inspiration for the movement and even the skeletal structure, we need to combine it with another species or some other element. We're going to start with some heads here. And just, you know, not even based on your preconceived notion of what the animal is and looks like. It looks like a squashed triangle in here. Forehead. Just kind of gesturing the initial shapes. Just have to kind of perceive beyond, you know, all of the nitty-gritty details and stuff. Almost like a muzzle shape here. The eyes, I'm getting a little high, so I'm going to move them down here. Don't see an eye from this angle, so you kind of keep that in consideration when creating your creatures. But then you come into things like the actual design, and sometimes it's really good for the sake of film and concept to be able to see both eyes from a 3/4. The ears almost touch in the middle. It's a cone shape, as if you could see down into the ear. To really feel it, I'm looking down inside that ear. So low set the eyes are. Make sure they're in that socket. Not so worried about proportions. I mean, generally speaking. Shape of that mouth, right? Chin. And I jump around a lot, you know, when I'm doing these breakdowns. It has this big brow that kind of almost like a forehead. The forehead comes out and protrudes. Muzzle smashed. And one thing you notice is, like, if you're looking at a profile, say here's the eye. That nose is angled right up at a 45-degree angle. So keep that in consideration when you're designing one of the imaginative elements of your creature. You can kind of keep it as a callback to the actual bat reference as the angle of that nose. A side plane in here. Very simple and objective. A lot of these little wrinkles in here. Looking at the fur patterns here, so that's another thing. As I look at this, I notice that I put my ears a little too small. As I start to measure out the proportions against one another. So we're going to drop that down. A little bit, adjust. Seeing this big fur, like a mane almost in here. So kind of go around to the other side. And kind of tackle back into that nose. Something you see. It's like a painting. As with any drawing and design, don't get caught up in one area. You know, approach it as like a big lay-in. And then jump around to keep the harmony going. I like this big, see this big dark bag under his eye. Look how close down the ears come. That's when I really started noticing it. All those wrinkles, top of the forehead here. This is kind of bulging out. You can see I'm really feeling my way through it. This is not, you know, preconceived or anything. I haven't really studied a bat, and some of you are just seeing me live, figuring it out. I don't have a lot of preconceived notions because it's not something I draw commonly. Angles for the base of the ear. As it kind of compresses there, you're getting all of these wrinkles, right? It's coming forward. So the angle right through here, right? But I'm really just analyzing the shapes, getting a lot of foreshortening on the ears. So I like the phase is working, but I still think my volumes are a little off. And although I know proportions is not something that should focus so much on the shapes, because you're going to be exaggerating these proportions. I think it's something worth getting into a little bit more. Because it's really about understanding those shapes, not about getting it exactly. You've got a collar shape here. You've got a smaller collar shape here. So there's like an overlapping of a mane and then all the little wrinkles underneath. Looking at the proportions of it all, it's like from here to here is about the same. So I'm trying to fix that and even that out. But this is why it's important to do the breakdowns. So even for someone that's, you know, seasoned as I am, it still takes a bit of time to figure out something I'm not so familiar with. Looking at this angle here to here, I want to make sure that I know that that really exists in the orientation of the shapes and the angles. You've got kind of this spine down the middle there. So I kind of looking at it as like almost like a snow pea, right? Where it's got that ridge there down the side. And then you got one that goes this way, the direction away from me, and then one that's going that way, right? So it's almost like the line or seam of snow pea or green bean. So I'm going to lean into these wrinkles. And that might be something like I might want to exploit when I'm doing my creature, like kind of the big wrinkling nature of the face right there, that forehead, as the ears are compressing down on it. And combining that with a chimpanzee face or an ape face, it's going to create something new and unique. And it's good to try to, if you notice, I'm trying to find flow, you know, that's just a general design element, whether you're dealing with something realistic, even just a refined illustration, concept piece, or streamlined, stylized, more cartoony character design. Try to look for flow where you can, where one line and shape flows into another. And where that seam is, lining up with everything. Once again, taking advantage of the digital. That feels about better. If I look at the negative space in there, right here, it's going away from camera, right? So look a little closer at the brow. This is why it's important to really get in there and not just like grab the reference if you haven't done this before and just be looking at a photo. Getting in there and doing like kind of a detailed study will further your own knowledge and give you more to pull from in terms of your visual vocabulary to create something interesting and unique. And it's not like, oh, yeah, it's obviously a bat with, you know, the ears, you know. I mean, that's true. But then when you get into the nitty gritty of it all, you can find some really interesting shapes and ideas that you wouldn't see by just looking at a photo, as opposed to breaking it down into kind of the objective forms and shapes. Like even me, these wrinkles right here is something I was not really aware of. So I'm discovering with you. So if I see that wrinkle there, it's coming out on that side too, right? I think we called it before chasing rabbit. They're drawing from, just because you don't see it on one side doesn't mean it's not there. So you're kind of drawing around from both angles. So I can understand this shape a little bit more and how it's almost like as the ear comes down, it's compressing. So I kind of get this feeling as the base of the ear hits, pushing out all these wrinkles in here as it comes forward, right? Something like that. It's an interesting shape inside there that I never really thought about before. So your general breakdown of the bat. So let's just see what we learned here and see what we can come up with. So we've got our bats and our chimps here, right? Now it's a matter of pushing and playing. So we're just going to kind of play around here. One thing I think I want to take, I really liked with the chimps is the mask of their face, right? So as I start to think about what to exploit in here, I like the bigger brow ridge there and goes down to the mask. This is something interesting. Now, one thing you always want to focus on is asymmetry. Don't make it like, oh, I'm going to take 2 parts from this one and 2 parts from this one, and we're going to make a perfect 4. You usually want to go 70-30. Staying very loose still. I do like the nose of this bat here. Remember, we spent a lot of time on that kind of flower-shaped nose. And I remember the angle was one of it too. The wrapping in on each other. Staying very loose with it at this stage. And thinking about how everything's flowing together, we like the kind of that graphic quality of the mane on the actual chimp. I really like the thickness of the neck of these bats here. And I'm really going to exploit the ears also. Now, I don't know if I'm going to go forward. Forward doesn't really look right to me. It's all about exploring, experimenting, you know. Now, remember that kind of bulbous part of the forehead in here. It's really about experimentation. Remember the proportions of the ears, right? Oh, there's that big flowering out. More aggressive. It's a little bit more forward. Remember how the ears kind of came down. It was attaching where the cheek was on this one, right? Interesting shapes here. And trying to find the flow of it all also. You need to start to combine the brow ridges together. Now notice how it's more dominant. The ears are the most dominant shape, right? Maybe it's all about roughing, finding something roughly that, even though we're dealing with creatures a little bit more realistic, there's still a sense of design and personality to it. It's got some character and also looks aggressive. It's really all about shape right now. I mean, it's a matter of what is becoming the most appealing. It's using those manes, that hair. And what I like about that is also creating, once again, asymmetry, right? So the dominant shape obviously is the ears, but then a lot of space between the top of the mouth and the base of the nose there. It's all about exploring right now, but if you're going to commit a big, powerful jaw, it'll really make a difference when they actually put his body in there. But I actually like that big teeth. Actually, there's a nice combination there. It becomes very subjective at this point. Keep in mind, though, obviously, production designer and director, They're going to have their own notes and own direction. But for the sake of learning a process, this really helps to see this. He looks very formidable, and there's also got some character in him, right? And keeping it very rough. Bats have such interesting ears, and this flare wouldn't come out like that as much. This guy definitely looks like he can rip open an elephant, but also something. He's got some, I don't know, some redeeming qualities for some reason, it looks like. So you can see I've combined, I think, skull-wise, predominantly ape. The good thing is you feel both influences, and that's what I like about it. Especially a lot of those organic flow of the structure of the brow and even the mask, even in the S-curve tissue forms of the ears. It's very bat-like in that area. And then obviously when you get into the muzzle and the bigger muzzle and the stronger brow bone, it's very ape. I think there's a nice combination without being completely even, right? It doesn't feel like the bat ears were just attached on. So you can see the benefits of combining two species, but not just looking at photo reference, actually analyzing the species independently of one another.
So hopefully this episode is really beneficial to you, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with your assignments.
You can submit your work at proko.com/810 and see what kinds of creature combos other students have been posting in the Proko community. Check out David's full course, where he teaches how to make more energetic, forceful, and grounded character and creature designs. You can learn the techniques that he uses in the film industry to add energy to his drawings.